What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we are just 3 days away from the college football playoff bracket reveal. We're going to know who the 4 teams are and where they are going to be seated on Sunday. I'm going to give you my final predictions for how I think it's going to go. And I'll be honest, this video might be a little bit boring to you because if you've watched the channel over the last few weeks, there really hasn't been much change. You're not going to see much change today. I would say what would be interesting is, in this video at least, is I'm going to break down kind of the path for the teams that have a chance that are not in the top 4 right now. And I'll kind of talk about those teams and who I think the top contenders are if something goes different than we expect it to go on Saturday. All right, so this is it. We still got Alabama number 1, no change there. Still Clemson number 2. I do have Clemson beating Notre Dame. I think Alabama beats Florida in a fairly easy win. I think it'll be similar to what Vegas is saying, about a 17-point win for Alabama. I think Clemson wins a very close game against Notre Dame. I'm expecting that game to be very, very exciting. I don't think Clemson's going to blow them out, but I do think the Tigers will win it. And then I've got Ohio State at number 3. I think they beat Northwestern. I think they win that game easily. And there was some thought for me about Notre Dame maybe just going to number 3. But I think Ohio State with a win over Indiana and Northwestern, 2 top 25 wins. And if they win impressively, I think they actually do go to number 3. But it wouldn't be surprising if Notre Dame stays at 3, Ohio State goes to 4. But I'm going to go the Irish to go to number 4. Again, no change here. This is how I've had the predictions the last several weeks. That one thing that might change again would be Notre Dame staying at 3. You know, you lose a close game to a top 4 team, you really shouldn't fall much. But at the end of the day, I kind of think the committee will put Ohio State at 3 and Notre Dame at 4. But it wouldn't surprise me at all. And like I said, if Clemson and Notre Dame split the series, I think they should play in the semifinals. Because if you split the series, why not have a rubber match? Why not make it the best of 3? And let's see Clemson and Notre Dame win again. Obviously, if Notre Dame were to win, then Clemson probably not even going to be in the playoff. Maybe they still are, but I don't think they would deserve to get in because I don't think that would be fair to Notre Dame to potentially have to beat Clemson a 3rd time to win a national championship. I talked about that a little bit the other day. But again, this is my top 4. I think Alabama will beat Notre Dame, but I think it'll be a close game. I think Notre Dame's defense will give Alabama some trouble. I think it won't be as high scoring as maybe some of the Alabama games this year. I think Notre Dame keeps it close, but Alabama's too much. They wind up winning this game by about 10. And then with Clemson and Ohio State, I've really gone back and forth on this matchup. It's tough for me to pick this one. In preseason, I thought Ohio State would probably come back, and the motivation of the offseason and everything they had coming back, they would be able to beat Clemson. But as the season progressed and we saw just what Clemson was capable of and how good this team is, I felt like Clemson would probably win this matchup. But I think some receivers out for Clemson that probably are not going to be back. And the fact that we saw Ohio State against Michigan State a couple of weeks ago finally showed their potential. I think the Buckeyes win this game. I think Ohio State beats Clemson, but it's definitely a tough pick for me. I could see it going either way. And then we get Alabama and Ohio State in the national championship. And I've been saying this all along. Which coach do I trust the most in this year? With all the craziness, all the disruptions, which coach do I trust to keep his team focused? It's Nick Saban. It's Alabama. I'm picking them to win the national championship. And not just that, but just the fact that they have been so impressive this year in so many areas. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they can stop the run, they can stop the pass. I mean, their special teams is fantastic. Last I checked, and I'm pretty sure this hasn't changed, their kicker hasn't missed a field goal this year. And that's something that Alabama usually struggles with. I mean, there's just no hole in this Alabama team. There are no weaknesses. They can do everything. Their offensive line is maybe the best in the country. It's maybe the best team we have seen in a long, long time if they continue to play at the level they're playing, just because of what they can do on both sides of the ball. The improvement of that defense, it's been impressive to watch. It's amazing to see. You know, finally, Nick Saban has one of his typical defenses with this explosive offense, which they've kind of lacked that defense the last couple of years. But now that it's back and they're healthy, man, this team is scary good. And I think they win the national championship, as much as I hate to say it. Let's go to the top contenders for number 4 now. And this is how I've got it lining up here. And this is kind of tough to figure out. You have a lot of different scenarios that could play out. We're going to go with the most obvious one, and that would be Notre Dame beating Clemson. So Clemson, in my opinion, will not get in if that happens. Obviously, Ohio State could get upset, or Alabama could lose to Florida. Things could happen, but the one thing you would say might actually happen in the top 4 that would change things would be Notre Dame beating Clemson a second time, which absolutely could happen. So who gets in if that does happen? I really think it's going to be the Big 12 champ, either Iowa State or Oklahoma. I think they're going to jump Texas A&M and Florida. Now, if Florida beats Alabama, that might be a little bit of a different discussion. But here's my reasoning why. All right, so again, let's go first here with Alabama, assuming they beat Florida. That means Texas A&M's best win and only quality win is over a now 3-loss Florida team, a Florida team that lost to LSU. All of a sudden, their resume doesn't look quite as good. They were blown out by Alabama. I think Texas A&M will actually fall a little bit. For Iowa State and Oklahoma, you look at where they are now, and then they get a chance to get a top 10 win plus a conference championship. I really believe the Big 12 champ, whether it's Iowa State or Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma would jump all these teams with a win over Iowa State, especially if they look impressive in that game. I think a Big 12 champ is going to get in if Notre Dame beats Clemson again. That's just my opinion. I don't know for sure. It's not something I'm super confident in. You look at the flip side, you could say Texas A&M would be in because they're already ahead of Iowa State and they're already ahead of Oklahoma. And, they've been impressive this year. And if they beat Tennessee by a lot, maybe the Aggies stay ahead of those Big 12 teams. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Big 12 will jump A&M in this scenario. And then, of course, Florida, if they beat Alabama, what do they need to have happen? The problem for them is they lost the head-to-head to Texas A&M. And we saw this a few years ago with Ohio State and Penn State. And in that game, Ohio State didn't even have the head-to-head, but they stayed ahead of Penn State. I think we see something similar here. I think Texas A&M will stay ahead of Florida. And believe it or not, I think that's A&M's best path. I think that Florida beating Alabama would actually maybe get Texas A&M into the playoff because now A&M's win over Florida looks even better. Florida maybe jumps Iowa State. They finish at number 5, and then Texas A&M is in there at number 4. So if you're Texas A&M, you probably really want Florida to beat Alabama. And I think that's going to be your best chance to get in. I do not think Florida will jump A&M with a win over Alabama. I just don't think it's going to happen when you look at the head-to-head and the one fewer loss for Texas A&M. They would only have 1 loss. Florida would have 2 losses. I don't think Florida would jump A&M. So if you're Florida, what you need to have happen is you need to beat Alabama, you need Notre Dame to beat Clemson, and then you need Ohio State, in my opinion, to lose to Northwestern. I think Florida needs the most here. And if that happens, we could potentially see A&M and Florida both in the playoff. We could see 3 SEC teams. I don't know how that would go down. Maybe the Big 12 still gets in and Florida's still left out. So maybe Florida has no path. I really don't know how it's going to go. I don't know what the committee's going to do. I don't think it's going to matter because, again, I think Clemson's going to beat Notre Dame, and I don't think Northwestern's going to beat Ohio State. But if something does happen, if we do get chaos, there's going to be drama on Sunday because we are not going to know what these rankings are going to look like. I don't think anyone can predict it. There are definitely different scenarios that could play out, and it will be very interesting if it does go that route. If Clemson does beat Notre Dame, the only drama will be who is 3 and who is 4. Will it be Notre Dame at 3 or Notre Dame at 4? Will Ohio State be 3 or will they be 4? That's going to be the only drama. So that's what I'll be watching for. And then again, if we see some chaos, it's going to be a lot of fun on Sunday. But these are my updated playoff predictions. I'd love to know what you guys think about it. Do you think maybe there'll be a big upset? Do you think there'll be a big shakeup? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.